Hey everyone! Welcome to the first ever episode of Super Sculptor, where I show you how to sculpt all of your favorite characters and even design some of your own. Today I thought we'd start small with an old school favorite of mine, Pac Man. Now, it's nice to have all of your stuff laid out before you start sculpting. That for your tools, your clay, and it's nice to have a rag or some, maybe even gloves, whatever you prefer, to clean your hands off and keep from the colors getting all mixed together. So we don't want to have that. So we'll start off by warming up the clay. You do this just by massaging it, tossing it back and forth between your hands and warming it up with your body heat. You want to get it nice and loose so that you're able to shape it easier. Now when you take clay right out of the package, it's going to be super tough depending on the brand that you buy. And it'll take longer with some to warm it up, but after I think about 2 to 3 minutes, it'll be warm enough, and then you can start going. Okay, so now that we've softened the body and I've made it into a circular shape, I'm going to start with the arms and legs. So we start with the legs first, and to do that, you're going to take a regular sized little ball, smaller than the body, of course. Roll it up, soften it out again, and then you want to take pieces off, roll them into little cylinders. Then you're going to take your fingers, your thumb or your pointer finger, and you're going to start putting pressure on the ends of the cylinder to flatten it out, because we're going to want it to be sturdy. We're going to want it to stand. So you want to make sure that perfectly shaped, flat on both ends. Not too thick that it won't look right for the character, because his legs are very thin actually, but you don't want it to be too thin because then it won't stand. You want to make sure that, unless you have props or something for the character to sit on, you most often want them to be freestanding. So we'll do a generic pose just to start, because this is a basic character. So I attached my legs and body parts with toothpicks. So I have toothpicks here, but you can use anything that is thin enough to insert and strong enough to hold it there. So if you have very thick wire, you can use that. Plastic, you can use that. Sometimes I actually use Lego, which works pretty well, so you can also do that. Get creative with it, because this is art. It's all about being creative. So stick this in the bottom, and since he doesn't have any features yet, you can really stick it wherever because it's a circle. Anything could be the bottom. So you stick one in. I have the other one almost finished, just so I can speed up the process for you guys here. So add a little bit more weight, a little more clay, and make it a little stronger. And we do this over and over again when sculpting. You're always going to be softening out the clay. Okay. Now the toothpick, insert it into the leg. Socket's been made. Plug it in at the bottom, and there we go. So now you should be able to stand pretty well on his own. Good. Okay, yeah. So now we're going to add his shoes. Pac Man has big red boots. So what's good about his boots is that it's going to cover most of the legs. So it's probably going to go up to around here. So we're going to put, oh dear. So we're going to put Pac Man aside for a second and start on his boots. Now the red is already pretty soft. So I've taken a whole ball of this and softened it before the video so that we can just get right into shaping it. Take a piece, roll it out. It's always better to start out with a ball, because then you can just quickly turn it into anything. So here's the shape. It's already starting to form. So we're going to take that, we're going to flatten it out at the bottom. Now remember, we want to make sure that the bottom is always flat. If it has any lumps, any holes, anything that could keep it from being sturdy, it's going to fall right over. Okay, so let's take that and see how it looks. So, okay, so that's a little bit higher, so that's fine. So I can take this, lie it down, use my plastic tool, just cut a little bit off the top there. Get that out of the way. Push this back up. reshape it. And then that's it. There we go. Make the heel shape. Okay. So, bottom of the shoe. See, no holes, no bumps. Here's the side. Okay. Now, depending on what package of tools you buy, you're going to get a different variety every time. If you go with the same brand, then you don't have to worry. But you should always have a tool with a rounded bottom like this on the end. So this just looks like this. I use this to make sockets, eye sockets, arm sockets, joints, or you can just make it and use it to make holes. So that's where his foot's gonna go. So I'm gonna widen that a little bit, and after I do that, it's gonna deform the shoe. So that's normal. That's okay if that happens. So now what you're gonna do is you're just gonna reshape, build that back up, hold it in place, hold the top part of the shoe in place, and then just spin it around a little bit more. Okay, so his boot is reformed, looks fine. Now there's a hole in there for his foot to go in. So let's do that. Okay, so you're going to pinch the bottom of either foot, either leg, whatever one you want to use first. So you're going to pinch it so that it can easily insert into his shoe. So you're pinching it, and it looks like this now. It's like a little crayon. So you're going to put that in there. Fits fine. Okay. Now, I am going to take the body off, take the leg off, so that I can work solely on his shoe here. Okay, so now that I have formed the shoe around the leg, it's completely attached. So that's that now. So now I can actually feel a little bit better about thinning out his leg if I want to, making it a little bit longer. Because that way I know that the shoe is going to really take a lot of the weight. This I made sure is very sturdy, so it's going to be fine. So I can take this, put it right here. Okay. There you go. There's his shoe, there's his leg. That all looks just fine. So now we're going to jump ahead, and I'm going to have the other shoe done so we can start on the gloves and the arms. Okay, so his legs are done, and he's starting to look pretty good. The colors are right, and the shape's right. You know, he's starting to look pretty well. So now we're going to do the arms. So I have here part of his arm. So again, same thing. We're going to be rolling it out, stretching it out. Now his arms are going to be thinner. His arms aren't really going to be bearing any weight or holding the character up. So it's okay if we make them just a little thinner. So again, like I said, you're going to roll it out. I'm going to move him over to the side. Roll it out. Okay. I think that's thin enough. Long enough too. So his arms are pretty short, pretty stumpy arms. So that is the perfect length. So you don't always get it perfectly even, which is fine because it's clay, so you can roll it out and make them both an even length, which now, okay, yeah, now they are. So those are going to be his arms. So let me see. That's good, because this is also going to be, the gloves are also going to be a part of this as well. So we have that as well. Here's orange gloves. And for a character like him, he's kind of got like boxing gloves on, I think. So we're just going to roll this out. Basic circle shape. I'll lay him down so that this doesn't shake anymore. Okay, so you have a shape like this, and this is how we're gonna do the glove. We're just gonna pinch the top. So now you have like a little seashell shape, I guess. And then you're gonna take the side and you're just going to pinch and pinch and pinch and pinch until you see this. And that's going to be his thumb. So now you're going to push this part down right here, just like that. And you're going to pull again and then pinch again. And now it's a little fatter, a little thicker. It's rounded a little bit more. So now you can play with this and get it to where you're happy. So I'm just going to do this in front of the camera. You have to fold this down so you don't see any wrinkles. You're going to keep folding it until you don't see any more wrinkles now. Smooth that out. And smooth it out with your fingers. The softer the clay, the easier it is to smooth. So I'm making kind of like an oven mitt, boxing glove shape. And for most cartoon characters, this is kind of okay. This is a shortcut method, and nobody ever really calls you out on it if you do it. For this character, it is necessary because that's actually how his gloves work. But if you have characters like Sonic or Mario, you could probably do the same thing and it would be fine. But since they also have fingers, if you want to go the extra mile, I recommend you do. It'll be very easy to make fingers out of this. And for the next episode, it will be Sonic, so I will show you how to do that. So for now, I think that's good enough. So we're just going to make a fish shape. And he had this little nub right here on the bottom of the glove. This is how we're going to attach it to his hands. You're going to flatten that out. And remember what I said before about socketing. We're going to make another socket with this shape, with this tool, right here at the bottom. So there's another hole. And just like what we did with the legs, we're going to pinch. But we don't have to pinch too much. Actually, we might not have to pinch at all. Okay. So we don't actually have to pinch at all. Sometimes you will have to. And it's just going to be just a tiny little, just like that. So it's just going to look like a little crayon again. And shape, it's going to go right in there. It fits perfectly. That's good. So once you have this in there, you're just going to mold the glove around there. And it's going to look pretty messy. And the best way to fix that is to add more detail. So see, like, just like that. So it's kind of uneven. It's kind of looks like a little wave, like right there. So lay this down, take a little bit of orange, pinch it off, and you're going to roll it out in your fingers just like this. And you're going to put it around the part where you attached the glove. So now it's going to look like that. So now it looks like an actual glove. So this looks a lot better like that. So there you go. So now bend it back into a fist. Let's get him into his side. Here's the side of the arm. You can start with whatever side you like. Just take the same steps and it'll look just like this when you're done. And there you go. There's his glove and there's his arm. So I will do this again, and then we can move on to the face and his expression. So there are two ways that you can do the face actually, and I'll talk about that as I'm doing the arm. You can do it, you can have his smile either be cut into his actual body, because he has a real big, goofy looking, fun smile there. So you can either cut it into his face, which sounds dark, but it gives you less control because you're dealing with an already preformed shape and you don't want to mess up your perfect circle. And if you carve into it, you're going to need to use your tools and smooth the top out, smooth the bottom out, and really make that shape. And it's really going to take a couple of swipes in order to get that banana like shape smile that he has. Then you have to fill it in. What I like to do is make the shape but on my own and then attach it to the body, and I do that quite often with my characters, unless it would just be easier to carve into it. But I don't always like to do that, because then if you ever have to change anything, you want to make a different expression, or if you're selling your art and somebody wants more than one expression, smile, angry, sad, what have you, then you're kind of lost because you can't give them more than one expression since it's already carved into the figure. So you can make more than one figure, or you can make another figure and just do it the other way. But it's easier to just start out with a pre-made smile. Okay, so that is done. Here's his glove. Okay, other hand. There's the nub, flattening that out. Here's his glove, front and back. Here's the nub at the bottom. Make a little hole, not too big. Pinch it just a little bit. Insert. And then form around him, or around his arm rather. And then let's take a little bit more orange, pinch off a little bit more than that. Roll it out, and repeat. So after you do one arm, it's very easy to do the other. It's just the same steps, repeated, and the only thing that's different is that it's the right hand instead of the left this time. So there's his arm like that. Now I'm going to take my tool, a little socket joint hole, put that in there. Now what you want to do, whenever you put a piece like this, arm, leg, even a facial piece into the body, you want to smooth it over after. So you're smoothing it out so that you don't see where you put it in. You just want it to look like it's one cohesive piece and that he just, was made this way, didn't take any effort to do it at all, and here he is. So you want to make it look like it's all one thing, it's all one character, like almost like a toy, Okay, so now we're going to move on to the face. So we're going to start with his nose. So I have the yellow clay, and roll it out. Okay. You don't want to make his nose super long, so think that's probably not enough actually. This is enough. There you go. Okay. This is how big the ball should be. So roll that out. And what I meant to say before is that you don't want it to look like a toy when you have the model finished, because clearly with action figures and Barbies you can see the seams, like where their joints and sockets and everything connects, and where where everything is placed. So you don't want that. You want it to look seamless. You know. And I think that's a good nose. That's a good nose. Yeah, you don't want it too big. But his nose, yeah, he's got, and I think that looks good. Okay. Good. So now that we have his nose, we can start on his eyes. Do his eyes. Here's black. Black's always very soft. So the thing about black, though, is that when you use black clay, dark blue clay, green clay, just like super dark green clay, anything like that, it will stain your fingers. And if you're working with colors that are lighter, like orange and yellow, that's a huge problem. You don't want the smudge from the black or the green to show up on the yellow. So make sure you have a rag on hand, something a little abrasive, or you're wearing gloves. It's harder for me to do it, at least with gloves, but if you think that it's easier, then do whatever feels comfortable. So his eyes are pretty big, so I like to just test it out and see. So I think that actually looks pretty good. The shape is good. It's got kind of like a pill shape, his eyes. you want it to look like this. So once you have this shape done, feel free to place it and just see, will that work? Will it not? How does it look? So this is how he looks so far. Now I've noticed that his nose is slightly off, so I'm just gonna shift it over. Shifting it over. So that it's centered, because we definitely want it to be centered. Okay, so that looks better, only he has the one eye. So let's get the other one back on there. There, and that looks a lot better. So there he is. Now he doesn't have his smile yet. Other thing about Pac Man is he has the little slits in his eyes. So now that we have the shape and the size, let's go about doing those little slits. So you take this tool, you take any knife tool, anything that has a little sharp point. This has a point. This also does. Most of them do. Here's my knife tool, but I needed something just a little smaller than that, so I'm going to use this one. It's kind of squared off at the end, so just cut into it just a little bit, and you can't even tell that I cut this. So after you've cut it, you just indent slightly. You just slice into it just a little bit. Just like that. Now, if you can't see it, it's like this. But it'll show up a lot more once I put it on the character. There you go. Now that looks great. So take this again, just a little bit more, just to make it more pronounced. Okay, yeah, it's more obvious. Cut. Okay, let's cut a little bit out. And the same thing, just gonna indent, indent, indent. Great. I used to play Pac Man all the time when I was a kid, and I could never get past the level where they meet. Mr. and Mrs. Pac Man meet for the first time. They used to have like the cutscenes in between the levels, and I could always get up to that, but the level right after, I couldn't get past it. I think that's Mrs. Pac Man that scene's in. I'm not sure. It's been so long, but that was one of my favorites. Okay, so here are the slits. There we go. Oh. Okay. All right, so next we're going to do the mouth. And the mouth, I'm going to show you the first and the quickest way to do it. So take some black in your hand, roll it out. And then thin it out. Thin it out completely. It's going to look like this. And you're going to take it And so I see, yeah, so very wide, kind of banana shape. All right, so I want it to look something like this. Okay, but this is too thick. Okay, so I'm gonna take this, thin it out again, because we don't want his mouth to stick out, because that won't look right. Okay, so that looks a lot better, and it looks more like it. So round it out more at the bottom, thin it out more towards the sides. Yeah, and it's something like that. Okay, that's good. So take this. All right, so let's see. I want to make sure that it's centered. Okay, so there he is. So now we're going to add the tongue. He's got big red tongue right in the center. Thin this out, the sides again. Cool, okay. So you want to make an indent into his mouth. And that's where you're going to put the tongue. Now the indent should be towards the bottom of the mouth, clearly, so that it looks realistic. Okay, so use this tool, take it into his mouth, and just at an angle like this, just press. Just a couple of times, and that will actually get you the perfect shape for his tongue. So, okay, so, great. Okay, so that's in there now. So there it is. Now, clearly, it's not done. He looks a little off there. So, last tool that I like to use, well, last trick. We're going to take some yellow. We're going to take a lot of yellow, actually. I think this might be enough. And thin it out. Okay. That's not thin enough. So keep making it longer and longer. This is going to go around the smile so that it looks like the smile is set into his mouth, like into his face. Okay. And a little bit more yellow. Okay, good. And blend it. You want to make sure that it's blended together. Okay. Okay, that's better. So Add a little bit more red to the bottom so you can cover up that black that's underneath the tongue so that the tongue doesn't look like it's floating. Okay. So there. So now he's almost done. Big cheeks, wide open smile. Stands perfectly. His gloves look great. Everything's kind of proportioned. So every character needs a prop. So for Pac Man, the most relatable prop are his cherries. It's the fruit that you can get in one of the levels. So take some red, roll it out, and then thin it out. So you have a ball, and then you thin it out into a circle, just like this. Next, you're going to take your thumb or your pointer finger, whatever you're more comfortable using, and just make small indents. You're going to make, I'd say, 6. You're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it'll look like this. Because we want it to look a little bit more pixelated and rougher around the edges. We don't want it to look super smooth. So do the same thing, because it's twin cherries, I think. Yeah, it is. So circle from the ball. You just take that ball, roll it out, soften it, and squish it out. Now it's a circle. Indent 6 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Oh. Okay. Good. Take his cherries. Here's the stem. Here's the green. Actually, before I forget again, do this. It's very important, and here I am forgetting to clean my hands off. Okay. You thin out some green, and then just pinch it just a little bit. So we have it all thinned out, and I'm just gonna pinch and attach to the one cherry. Pinch and attach to the other. Put them both together, just like this. And there you have it. So you can make him holding it. You can put it right next to him. You can even make him eating it if you want. But yeah, so I'm just gonna do this. Have him like that. And then in the other hand, open his hand up. Put the cherries in there. Okay, so there you have it. Your character, your prop. I added eyebrows to him just to give an example of some of the things you could do with the expression. And there's a little blue ghost that I had done recently, so I just put him in there as well. You can use him for stop motion. You can just take pictures. Whatever you want to do with your character, it's all yours. But I think he looks great, and I hope yours does too. So that's it for me. Thank you so much for joining me today. You can find more sculptures like Pac Man here over at my Instagram account at Super Sculptor, which there will be a link to in the description. And I'll be back next week with Sonic and more sculpting fun. So thank you so much, and thanks for stopping by. I'll see you real soon.